The howling wind. Lin Chia stood at the mountain peak, gazing up at the void above, slowly raising the black gold blade in his hand. A terrifying aura emanated from the blade. This calamity blade that transcended boundaries could enable Yuzuri Tekishiro to slaughter corpse gods, and also give Lin Chia, who only had infinite, the power to cleave open the gate of ascension to Takamagara. As the blade rose, a mysterious energy was drawn from the void, like an invisible thread connecting with the blade's edge. At this moment, Lin Chia, gripping the blade's handle, sensed a mysterious coordinate. That was the coordinate of the Gate of Ascension. The Gate of Ascension had retreated into the void, and only native deities of Takamagara could attract its descent. This calamity blade, forged with countless resources of the Kunitsukami, existed to find the Gate of Ascension and cleave it open. Finding the Gate of Ascension and deceiving it to descend was this blade's most basic ability. Boom! Above the city ruins, the massive gate's silhouette condensed from the mist, an ancient and vast aura enveloping heaven and earth. One corner of the gate fell upon the earth, instantly grinding the entire city to dust. The thunderous vibrations echoed across the horizon, rolling dust clouds surging up to engulf the three cloaked figures at the mountain peak. The Gate of Ascension had descended. Lin Chia's golden eyes burned like two blazing suns through the dust. He raised the black gold blade in his hand, pointing its edge at the center of the ancient gate. Dazzling black gold light burst from his palm, instantly extending hundreds of meters, finally weaving into the outline of a great blade that he gripped tightly. "Brother Chia, give it a name." Yuzuri Nai's voice echoed in Lin Chia's ears. This calamity blade needed a name, one worthy of carrying its power and mission. "A name," Lin Chia murmured. He looked at the massive blade in his hand, pointing at the gate to the divine realm, his eyes flickering. This blade shone with the light of defiance, a divine weapon refined from the mortal realm. Its very existence was a challenge to the gods, a desecration of divine authority. Let's call it Divine Calamity. Whoosh! As the words fell before the towering gate, the tiny Lin Chia stood at the mountain peak, gripping the black gold giant blade, and from the mortal realm, swung once at the ancient gate of the divine realm. The black gold blade light instantly crossed the sky, cutting through the heavy clouds and mist, landing on the surface of the massive Gate of Ascension. The blade's edge tore at the gate, and a savage cut mark was deeply branded on the gate following Lin Chia's strike. The piercing, thunderous sound of the strike echoed across the horizon, making eardrums ache. The black gold blade light swept across the gate, cleaving it in one strike, then hung in mid-air, transforming into countless specks of light before dissipating. The severed mist churned violently but soon returned to its original state. But the blade mark on the Gate of Ascension's surface continued to spread rapidly. When the final crack shattered, the entire surface of the Gate of Ascension burst open with a gap, through which the red world behind the gate could be clearly seen. Divine Calamity returned to its sheath. Cough, cough, cough. Lin Chia lowered his head and began coughing, a wave of weakness washing over him, his face deathly pale. Without divine power, he was backlashed by the divine weapon's power, causing severe physical strain. Fortunately, his body had been tempered by the power of faith, giving him endurance far beyond normal humans. Otherwise, he would have lost all strength and collapsed. Lin Chia briefly assessed his condition. In his current physical state, he could manage at most one more strike. "Are you all right?" Wang Mian looked at Lin Chia's pale face and asked worriedly. "I'm fine." Lin Chia took a deep breath, his gaze falling on the huge gap in the Gate of Ascension. "The gate is open, we should go." The three figures simultaneously rose from the mountain peak, transforming into three afterimages, directly entering through the Gate of Ascension. Lin Chia's figure merged with the night, speeding through the blood-red world, leading Wang Mian and Wu Xiangnan straight toward a certain direction. This was his second time entering Takamagara. Before this, he hadn't even imagined he would have another chance to return. Last time he was desperately chased by Susanoo and barely escaped Takamagara. This time he came for revenge. From within the black gold blade, pale golden light rippled out, enveloping all three of them, blocking the red moon's light outside the glow. This blade can block the red moon's corruption? Lin Chia was surprised by this sight. If he remembered correctly, It could also dispel the mist's corrosion earlier in the fog. Could this be related to the blade's ability? Just as Lin Chia was pondering at the horizon's edge, a towering mountain shadow appeared before the three. Under the crimson moon, endless divine corpses piled into a towering peak, emanating a nauseating bloody stench. At the peak of this mountain of corpses, a one-armed figure wearing blood-stained divine robes sat there, gazing up at the red moon overhead, his eyes filled with endless fanaticism. Seeing this scene, confusion flashed in Wang Mian's eyes. Is that Susanoo? Why does he only have one arm? Wu Xiangnan frowned and shook his head. Don't know, when we met him back then his body was still intact and his mind was relatively clear. Lin Chia stared at Susanoo's severed arm, understanding in his heart. When he left Takamagara, Susanoo's arm was still there, which means Merlin must have blown off his arm after that. As if sensing the three's approach, Susanoo, sitting atop the mountain of corpses, suddenly turned to look in their direction, his blood-red eyes bursting with terrifying killing intent. Roar! He stood up from the mountain of corpses, opening his mouth to release a beast-like roar, like a mad god standing beneath the red moon. The terrifying divine pressure suddenly descended, sweeping across the land like a hurricane, making hearts tremble. On the blood-colored earth before him, three figures calmly looked up at the maddened Susanoo at the peak. Wang Mian's eyes narrowed as he spoke. Neither of you are human pinnacles, remember to keep your distance from him. I'll face him head-on. As the words fell, time began to flow rapidly around him, like a movie scene accelerated hundreds of times, instantly flashing past Lin Chia and Wu Xiangnan, charging at Susanoo's face at a speed the naked eye couldn't catch. Wu Xiangnan, wearing a light blue cloak, gripped his sword with one hand and smiled slightly. With my sword, that's enough. His figure flickered, charging forth from the earth. A gray and a blue figure approached rapidly, causing Susanoo at the peak of the corpse mountain to feel a surge of fury. Having just been severely wounded by Merlin and not yet fully recovered, more human insects had come to challenge his authority. Susanoo's remaining arm reached out into the air above the corpse mountain, unleashing surging divine power as a terrifying aura of law descended. Ocean law. The blood-colored ocean surrounding the divine realm began to churn violently, as if drawn by some mysterious force, transforming into thousands of massive water pillars that shot skyward, rolling toward the center of Takamagara. The blood-colored seawater converged into a gradually expanding vortex, encircling the corpse mountain like a red stellar ring, protecting the ocean god at its center. In an instant, the violently churning blood-colored ocean suddenly slowed, with water droplets nearly suspended in midair, as a gray figure stepped across the stagnant seawater, the sword at his waist flashing out of its scabbard. Clang! Time flowed rapidly around Wang Mian with yuan, speed enhanced to a terrifying degree. A massive concentrated blade light instantly cut through the stagnant water vortex, heading straight for Susanoo's body. Susanoo's brows furrowed slightly as he coldly snorted, stomping his right foot heavily on the peak of the corpse mountain. Invisible ripples spread out, and the suspended seawater in the sky instantly broke free from time's shackles, churning violently again as a pair of giant hands formed from the waves, forcefully crushing that blade light. The seawater soaked Wang Mian's cloak as his expression grew increasingly grave. The power of law. The human ceiling level, time sequence thug, could indeed affect deities, but ultimately, what he used was still just spirit power driving the divine ruins, which couldn't maintain time stop for long under the impact of ocean law. Boom! Wave after wave of blood-colored tsunamis rose up as the power of law surged wildly. In this domain of divine wrath, killing intent lurked within every falling drop of water. Among the rolling waves, Wang Mian gripped his sword with one hand, his pale hair floating in the wind as he rapidly moved through the gaps between waves. Due to his accelerated time flow, the water surface remained relatively still with each of Wang Mian's steps, only sinking and splashing after his figure passed. But no matter how fast Wang Mian was, he couldn't overcome the hundreds of massive waves continuously blocking his path. In a flash, Wang Mian passed through wave after wave, but just as he was about to reach Susanoo, the waves beneath his feet suddenly rose up, transforming into a sky-covering giant hand that crashed down. At that moment, a sword light flashed out from behind him. Clad in blue and standing on a crimson sword, Wu Xiangnan flew rapidly between the waves, his Kusanagi sword tracing a flower pattern as it instantly sliced the giant wave before Wang Mian into scattered rain. "Didn't I tell you to keep your distance?" Wang Mian frowned upon seeing Wu Xiangnan riding his sword. "You alone are no match for him," Wu Xiangnan shook his head. "Though my realm isn't high with this Kusanagi sword, I'm not without fighting power." Wang Mian started as if remembering something and smiled helplessly. "I almost forgot, in terms of sword skill alone, you're a monster who could fight evenly with Zhou Ping. I wonder if after lying low for so many years, you, the undying swordsman of the Blue Rain team, still maintain your former glory." "My sword will never rust," Wu Xiangnan replied calmly, then rode his crimson forbidden sword into the surging waves, brilliant sword light blooming from his hands like a dense net, carving out a hollow path through the waves. Peak human sword skill combined with the Kusanagi sword that could cut through all things elevated Wu Xiangnan's combat power to a terrifying level. Seemingly sensing the Kusanagi sword's aura, Susanoo roared in anger, mobilizing his divine power to try and reclaim this divine weapon that originally belonged to Takamagara directly from Wu Xiangnan's hands. But he overlooked a crucial point. This Kusanagi sword was given to him by Amaterasu during the Red Moon Chaos, and now Wu Xiangnan carried Amaterasu's solar essence. As Wu Xiangnan deliberately channeled the essence within his body, the Kusanagi sword in his hand merely trembled slightly at Susanoo's call before returning to stillness. To the Kusanagi sword, the aura on Wu Xiangnan's body was closer to its original owner. This sword could no longer be reclaimed by Susanoo. Flames of anger nearly consumed his body as he stomped heavily on the corpse mountain, his massive form leaping down from the peak, blocking half the red moon as countless seawater rolled up to his fist, crashing down toward those two figures. At that moment the sky visibly darkened. Night fell. The pitch-black night shrouded the blood-colored sky, almost completely covering the red moon, as the deep darkness silently devoured everything in the world like a soundless monster. At the edge of this darkness, a deep red figure sat cross-legged on a meditation cushion, slowly rising from the broken ground. Lin Chia closed his eyes, his deep red cloak completely merging with the night, as if the darkness above was an extension of his body. He sat there quietly like the ruler commanding the night. Enhanced by the meditation cushion, Lin Chia's dark erosion was amplified to a level comparable to the divine realm. In an instant, endless darkness crawled up Susanoo's body like grotesque black snakes, beginning to contest control of his body. That giant figure crashing down from the sky suddenly stiffened for a moment. Whoosh! Seeing this, Wang Mian's turbid eyes flashed with light as his figure dissolved into time, leaving an afterimage as he rushed skyward. A blade light brilliant to the extreme bloomed once more. The blade light cut by Yuan, sliced through a corner of Susanoo's waist, causing fresh blood to spray out and fall into the surging blood-colored ocean, making it boil once more. The strike had wounded Susanoo. As Susanoo struggled free from the darkness's restraint, before he could act, a blue-clad figure appeared on his sword behind him, and a sword light immediately thrust out from his back. The Kusanagi sword easily pierced through his shoulder blade, leaving a shocking bloody hole. Roars echoed in the sky as endless ocean phantoms gathered behind Susanoo, and a giant blade formed of seawater instantly thrust out toward Wu Xiangnan's figure. Wu Xiangnan's eyes trembled as he was about to grit his teeth and dodge, when the night around him suddenly enveloped his form, and the next moment he vanished into the night sky. The blade of seawater pierced into the void without touching Wu Xiangnan's body. At the same time, at a certain spot at the foot of the corpse mountain, a shade of night condensed again, and Wu Xiangnan's figure stumbled out from within, breathing heavily. He raised his head, looked at the deep red figure floating in the night sky, and a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. "Thanks, Chia." Lin Chia, sitting cross-legged on the cushion, did not answer. Now he had completely immersed himself in the cushion, unable to speak or move. The only thing he could do was control this black night realm that covered the entire Takamagara. With a thought, the night surged and he, along with the cushion beneath him, disappeared from the spot. When he reappeared, he had already flashed to the space above the corpse mountain surrounded by seawater. "Our account needs to be settled properly." Killing intent churned in Lin Chia's heart. Bang 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 dash. As darkness eroded the corpse mountain, one divine corpse after another had their surfaces stained with night color and stood up from the mountain. Some were missing arms, some legs, but a large portion had their bodies preserved quite intact, and some even still held weapons stained with divine blood. The ability of dark erosion was originally meant to erode everything around oneself in its most primitive form. Everything covered by darkness was under control. Currently, Lin Chia couldn't control Susanoo, who possessed the power of laws, but he could still manage to control these deceased divine corpses. Under that deep red cloak, black corpses crawled up from the mountain one after another, rushing rapidly towards Susanoo. Although these corpses couldn't mobilize any divine power, they were still deities when alive, and their physical strength alone was enough to exert terrifying combat power. Combined with their spine-chilling numbers, they were enough to occupy most of Susanoo's attention. Without the Kusanagi sword, Susanoo could only control the blood-colored waves to continuously shatter their corpses when facing such a large-scale corpse attack. Wu Xiangnan looked up at the deep red figure controlling the divine corpses in the sky and couldn't help saying, "Chia looks quite like a villain now. Compared to those people from Medium, he's quite normal," Wang Mian spoke softly. Wu Xiangnan recalled those corpses flying around on silver pillars and let out a long sigh. "That's true. I still hope these young people can be all right." Wang Mian fell silent for a moment before slowly speaking. "Night Curtain cannot become the next Medium, Blue Rain, or Mask." He shook his head and charged out again. In the churning blood sea, Susanoo frantically tore apart the corpses surging up, but even so, some attacks still landed on his body, leaving messy wounds. Two figures, one gray and one blue, rapidly approached from different directions, their sword and blade flashing with cold light, aimed directly at Susanoo's neck. At this moment, Lin Chia, sitting under the night sky, seemed to sense something, and his brows immediately furrowed. Under the night sky, a crimson full moon mysteriously appeared from the void. Unlike the red moon hidden outside by the night curtain, this red moon actually appeared inside Takamagara, like a red eye without a pupil hanging under the night color, its eerie red light falling on the earth, staining everything red. Second red moon? At this moment, Lin Chia quickly recalled the scene of two moons in the sky he had seen earlier in the carriage leaving Takamagara. If the red moon outside the night curtain was the moon spreading pollution, then what exactly was this red moon appearing inside Takamagara? Before Lin Chia could think it through carefully, below him Susanoo, covered in blood, suddenly widened his eyes, staring fixedly at the two red moons in the sky, extreme fanaticism appearing on his face, and his previously weakened body straightened up again. Blood tears flowed down from those eyes, reflecting the phantom of the red moon. An unprecedented savage aura burst forth from within his body, the terrifying pressure hitting the three of them like a mountain, making their faces pale simultaneously. Is he burning his divine power? Wang Mian's expression changed as he felt this powerful aura. With a roar, the waves around Susanoo suddenly burst apart. A hemispherical wave of law swept out, crashing head-on into Wu Xiangnan and Wang Mian, who were closest to him. Wang Mian's pupils contracted, and his entire body was sent flying hundreds of meters by the force of law, crashing heavily onto the broken roof of a palace standing in the blood sea. His aged body rolled among the rubble for a long time, spitting out a mouthful of blood, instantly breaking several bones. Although he possessed the strength of humanity's ceiling, this body was too old. Such impact was already unbearable for him. On the other side, Wu Xiangnan's fate was even worse. Being only at the sea realm, he had half his body directly shattered by the force of law, and the Kusanagi sword slipped from his hand, falling powerlessly into the blood sea, his life force rapidly withering. Lin Chia, sitting above Susanoo, was also caught in the force of law. His figure was violently blown off the cushion, but just as the ocean law was about to crash into his body, a black windbreaker phantom appeared on the surface of his skin, and the familiar night law surged like waves, colliding head-on with the ocean law. This was one of the gifts Nyx left for Lin Chia before leaving. A windbreaker woven from night law, used to resist the force of law. During the past period, Lin Chia had never been directly attacked by the force of law, and this windbreaker had been hidden within his body, never triggered, until now. The night law and ocean law collided with each other, forcefully tearing apart the ocean law's attack. Lin Chia's figure was blown back, landing on the broken ground outside the blood sea vortex. He stumbled to his feet, feeling somewhat dizzy. He looked up at Susanoo, who was rapidly killing his way toward Wang Mian, his brows tightly furrowed. "This is bad," Wang Mian muttered. His peripheral vision fell on Wu Xiangnan's body slowly regenerating in the blood sea not far away. Before coming here, Wu Xiangnan had already used his life to hold back the gestation of the Sun Law. After this resurrection, the origin within his body would give birth to Law, and he would begin to dissipate into the Tao. The Sun Law was about to emerge, but Susanoo had not yet entered a dying state. If they missed this opportunity and Wu Xiangnan dissipated into the Tao, they would never have another chance to turn the tables. Lin Chia placed his hand on the hilt of Divine Calamity, at his waist, determination appearing in his eyes. He had just taken a step forward when he froze in place. He looked down at his feet. Next to the blood-colored mural palace, red magic patterns intertwined on the ground, faintly visible in the wind and sand, it was a corner of a huge magic array. Forbidden spell. Yen Flame Heaven Covering Technique. Lin Chia froze in place. A forbidden spell? How could there be a forbidden spell here? Lin Chia's gaze swept across the surroundings. He clearly remembered this was where Merlin had parked the car to let him and Jialan look at the murals. Did Merlin secretly leave a forbidden spell here? Yen Covering Heaven Technique. Lin Chia's eyes gradually lit up as if remembering something. In his mind, Merlin's words surfaced again. Let me test you with a few questions to see if you're still clear-headed. What activation method is used for the final magic node of Yen Covering Heaven Technique? As the strongest single-target lightning forbidden spell, what is the maximum kill range of Alfred's Aria? Among sealing forbidden spells, which instant cast spell requires pre-calculating and arranging star trajectory patterns to invoke celestial power for sealing? These three questions seemed strange to Lin Chia at the time, but when he saw the forbidden spell formation beneath his feet with his own eyes, he realized things weren't as simple as he thought. Merlin's three questions weren't inquiries, but reminders. Had he already prophesied that Lin Chia would return to Takamagara? At this moment, countless thoughts flashed through Lin Chia's mind. He quickly looked up and surveyed the surroundings. Since Merlin's Yen Covering Heaven Technique had appeared among the three forbidden spells, the other two must also be hidden within Takamagara. Where were they? Lin Chia quickly recalled the path Merlin had led them through Takamagara. His gaze swiftly turned to a certain direction as his spiritual power extended outward. On the mountainside in the distance, a purple formation slowly emerged in front of the temple used to collect faith. Second one. Lin Chia's eyes grew even brighter. Now that these two forbidden spells had been found, where was the final sealing spell? Lin Chia's spiritual power swept across every inch of Takamagara but couldn't find the third forbidden spell formation. Just as he was completely puzzled, his eyes caught sight of winding carriage tracks branded into the ground beside him. That was... Lin Chia's eyes sparkled with brilliance. He looked up at Susanoo, who was about to charge at Wang Mian. A plan rapidly formed in his mind as he gripped Divine Calamity and swiftly dashed out. Roar. A beast-like howl emerged from Susanoo's throat as he wore that blood-stained divine robe, treading on waves as he flew to the broken palace roof rising from the sea. Two streams of blood tears continued to flow endlessly from his eyes. In Susanoo's perception, Wang Mian's aura fluctuations were the strongest and most threatening among the three. Killing him first would make it easy to eliminate the other two insects. He raised his fist as waves gathered behind him into a sky-covering shadow of a fist, crashing down toward Wang Mian below. Wang Mian supported his body with Yuan, his silver-white elderly hair dancing in the wind. His brows furrowed as he was about to forcibly freeze time when a flash of night color appeared before him. It was a figure wearing a deep red cloak. Scattered seawater fell from the sky, soaking his cloak. Lin Chia stood before Wang Mian, gripping the handle of the black and gold sword at his waist with one hand, his eyes radiating dazzling golden light. Clang. Divine Calamity. Unsheathed. A black and gold blade light burst forth from the deep red figure, slashing toward the crashing fist of the sea god. The blade light struck Susanoo's fist, colliding with the ocean laws. The faint golden halo crushed the ocean laws like a wheel of light. The blade easily cut through his flesh, cleaving his entire forearm along with the towering waves behind him in one slash. In an instant, the waves split in two from where the blade light passed, crashing down like a torrential rain toward the mountain of corpses below. The laws controlling these waves had been shattered. Roar. As Susanoo was struck by this slash, an expression of pain suddenly appeared on his frenzied face, followed by the rapid weakening of the law's power on his body. Only when the faint golden light clinging to Susanoo's wound completely dispersed did the weakening of the laws slowly stabilize. In just a few seconds his power of law had shrunk by nearly 1/10. Lin Chia violently coughed up blood, his face extremely pale. He barely stabilized himself and looked at this scene before him with bewilderment. As if remembering something, he looked down at the black and gold sword in his hand, shock rising in his heart. This Magatama sword could actually dispel laws? Although one slash could only dispel 1/10 of the laws, if he slashed 10 times, wouldn't he be able to forcibly cut a deity down from godhood? A deity without the power of law would only be a false god. Looks like this name was chosen well, Lin Chia murmured, gripping divine calamity. Now it seemed that its ability to dispel mist, resist corruption, and cut open the receiving gate was essentially all due to the sword's effect of dispersing laws. The power contained within this sword was enough to make all deities and divine realms tremble. Lin Chia glanced at the completely insane Susanoo, his eyes narrowing. He quickly turned back to Wang Mian and said, "I'll keep him occupied. Later, make sure Vice Captain Wu seizes the opportunity." As soon as the words fell, without waiting for Wang Mian to ask, Lin Chia transformed into a flash of night color and rushed swiftly toward a certain direction. After being wounded by this slash, Susanoo's anger was all drawn to Lin Chia. He temporarily abandoned Wang Mian before him, wearing the divine robe as he pursued Lin Chia in a frenzied chase across the broken ground. His feet stepped on the ground, each step making the earth rumble. Just as his foot landed in a certain area, a huge red formation suddenly lit up beneath his feet. Gravity-triggered lethal forbidden spell, Yen Yen covering heaven technique. Boom! A terrifying fire-red pillar rose from the magic formation, instantly engulfing Susanoo's figure. 12 consecutive red halos condensed in the void above, encircling the light pillar, radiating scorching energy. Half a second later, these 12 red halos descended one after another, finally overlapping together as earth-shattering explosive sounds rang out again. That pillar spewing flames gradually became tinged with darkness, even melting the surrounding void. This fire pillar lasted a full 6 or 7 seconds before slowly dissipating. A scorched and disheveled figure stood firm on the ground, the seawater around him completely evaporated, only those blood-red eyes still spewing fury. Lin Chia wore his deep red cloak, floating in the air before him, raising his hand to point at him from afar. He opened his mouth as deep and obscure chanting slowly emerged. As Lin Chia's chant rose, a faint light appeared along the intertwining wheel tracks on the blood-colored ground, weaving into a complex stellar trajectory pattern that made one's scalp tingle at first glance. Those were the paths where Merlin had driven the carriage, taking them through every inch of Takamagara. These paths mysteriously corresponded with the stellar trajectories early on. Every turn, every twist, and even the depth of the wheel tracks left by the carriage pressing against the ground had been precisely calculated. Merlin wasn't just aimlessly driving around. He was using the wheel tracks to draw an enormous sealing curse. This was one of the 3 contingency plans he left for Lin Chia. Instant sealing curse. Star track divine coffin. As the last syllable was uttered, countless dazzling star tracks rose like flying dragons from the wheel marks on the blood-colored ground, instantly piercing through space and weaving around the charred Susanoo. These star tracks entwined around him, quickly solidifying into a deep blue divine coffin, trapping him firmly within. Susanoo's mutilated body was sealed inside, 2 streaks of blood tears sliding down his cheeks. His surging divine power frantically crashed against the divine coffin, causing fine cracks to spread across its surface. At the distant palace roof, Wang Mian saw this scene and stumbled to his feet, the time flow around him suddenly accelerating. He took slow and heavy steps, leaving a trail of continuous afterimages in the accelerated time, passing through the surging blood sea, and instantly arrived before the nearly revived Wu Xiangnan. Wu Xiangnan's body had been mostly reconstructed, with only half an arm left to restore. Wang Mian quickly carried the unconscious man on his back and rushed toward the sealed Susanoo, his steps becoming even heavier. As the final strand of flesh restored, Wu Xiangnan on Wang Mian's back suddenly emitted intense law fluctuations, his entire aura becoming mysterious. Wu Xiangnan suddenly opened his eyes. In his pupils, two black suns were burning fiercely. This was the sun law born from the sun origin within him. Though weak as a spark compared to true divine laws, possessing this strand of law gave him the qualification to slay gods. Bang dash. With a light sound, Wu Xiangnan's back suddenly burst into a blood mist, transforming into white threads that dissipated in the air. "Are you all right?" Wang Mian asked with furrowed brows. "I'm starting to dissolve into the Tao." Wu Xiangnan landed on the ground and raised his head, those burning eyes looking towards Susanoo sealed in the divine coffin in the distance. "I don't have much time left." Susanoo's furious counterattack had nearly wiped out all three of them. Although Wu Xiangnan revived using his last chance of rebirth, the sun law within his body also prematurely emerged. The moment this strand of law appeared, his life officially entered a countdown. Wang Mian turned to look at Wu Xiangnan, his eyes flickering with light. He raised his head, mobilized his mental power and lightly pointed at Wu Xiangnan. Time around Wu Xiangnan paused, then quickly reversed, but the dissipating blood mist only flowed back for half a second before Wang Mian felt a shock in his mind. He violently coughed up blood and interrupted the time reversal process. "It's useless, your time divine void can't withstand the law's backlash." Wu Xiangnan smiled bitterly. "I can't turn back anymore." Wang Mian wiped the blood from his lips, looked at Wu Xiangnan with a complex expression, but still nodded. "Lin Chia has already held back Susanoo, we still have a chance." A burst of blood mist exploded from Wu Xiangnan's shoulder, slowly dissipating into white threads. He took a deep breath, stepped onto the flying sword prohibited item, gripped the Kusanagi sword and flew rapidly toward the divine coffin. Wang Mian's surrounding time accelerated, and his figure flickered and disappeared from the spot. Lin Chia saw the gray and blue figures rapidly approaching, his eyes slightly narrowed. His gaze returned to Susanoo, who was about to break free from the seal. His figure flashed repeatedly, quickly moving to the temple halfway up the mountain. He raised his hand and pressed firmly on the ground before the temple, purple lightning patterns emerging. This was the final curse array left by Merlin. The strongest single-target lightning damage curse. Alfred's aria. Crack dash. Dense lightning gathered around Lin Chia, instantly converging into a blue-gray lightning sphere floating above him. Several stray electric arcs fell on the surrounding peaks, instantly shattering them into fragments that scattered in all directions. Below this blue-gray sphere, Lin Chia raised his hand and pointed from afar at Susanoo. That lightning sphere burst forth with a narrow gray lightning strike, instantly piercing through 40 kilometers of space, directly striking towards Susanoo's body. The lightning rubbing against space produced an eerie sighing sound that made people's heads slightly tremble. Boom dash. Just as Susanoo shattered the Star Trek divine coffin, his chest was instantly pierced by this gray lightning strike. An earth-shattering lightning explosion bloomed with him at its center, dense lightning devouring several kilometers of ground around him. Deafening thunder echoed in the sky. Lin Chia stood on the dissipating purple array, withstanding the howling storm, his gaze falling on Wu Xiangnan in the distance. His eyes were extremely solemn. The cushion, divine calamity, 3 curse arrays, he had used all the means at his disposal. Now everything depended on Wu Xiangnan. He who carried both hatred and law, was the trio's true killing move. Whoosh dash. As the surging lightning gradually dissipated, that blue-robed figure didn't hesitate at all, stepping on the prohibited flying sword and soaring skyward, charging toward the center of the lightning and dust. As the dust swirled, a mutilated giant figure stood on the shattered ground. His right arm had been blasted away by magic, his left forearm cut off by divine calamity, and on his chest, a terrifying bloody hole gaped horribly, with strands of electric arcs surging within the wound, paralyzing his body. Even though his body was broken to this extent, he still hadn't died. Without the power of law to erase him, he would never truly die. Seeming to sense the familiar law approaching, Susanoo's blood-red eyes emanated a chilling, killing intent. Around him quickly appeared the illusion of a vast ocean, surging water condensed from the law, forming a heaven-covering hand that struck toward the blue-robed figure. In a flash, a gray figure wielding a blade flew past the blue-robed figure's side. Silver-white hair fluttered in the wind as Wang Mian's aged eyes burst forth with fierce killing intent. He suddenly drew Yuan from his waist, and a huge blade light penetrated the void, slicing that giant hand into scattered rain. Through the dancing raindrops, a blue-robed figure flashed past. That Kusanagi sword, once stained with all his teammates' blood, was thrust by his own hands into Susanu's throat. Wu Xiangnan gripped the sword hilt tightly with both hands, two black suns burning fiercely in his eyes, as the solar law within his body flowed through the hilt into Susanu's body. Bang! Wu Xiangnan's left hand burst into a cloud of blood mist, transforming into countless white threads that vanished without a trace. His eyes flickered with cold killing intent as he clenched his teeth, his right hand gripping the Kusanagi sword hilt, and slashed downward violently along Susanu's throat. The sharp blade cut through the massive body, leaving a horrifying sword mark. Wu Xiangnan landed on the ground with his sword, the Kusanagi in his hand now stained blood red. Hot divine blood rained down from the sky, staining the light blue cloak with blood. Wu Xiangnan looked up at Susanu, whose vitality was rapidly fading under the solar law, and slowly closed his eyes. He took a deep breath and exhaled slowly. The years of resentment and hatred that had lingered in his heart dissipated like smoke with this breath of turbid air. This moment he had waited for nearly 10 years. I killed him, Wu Xiangnan muttered. Unfortunately, you can't see it anymore. Boom. Susanu's massive body crashed to the ground, rolling clouds of dust rising up, making the light blue cloak flutter. A blood mist burst from Wu Xiangnan's right arm, his flesh dispersing as his form became somewhat more transparent again. The blood-stained Kusanagi in his hand fell into the ground, sinking deep into the soil. Two figures, one in dark gray and one in dark red, walked up behind him. Wang Mian and Lin Chia exchanged glances, their expressions both somewhat complex, but neither disturbed the man who stood before Susanu's corpse, muttering to himself. Bursts of blood mist exploded from Wu Xiangnan's body as his form gradually dispersed. Finally he slowly turned around, this man in his mid-30s, his eyes filled with tears. He looked at Lin Chia and Wang Mian and smiled. Thank you. Don't thank us. You prepared alone for 10 years, planned boldly without leaving yourself an escape route. Being able to reach this point is what you deserve. Wang Mian couldn't help but sigh. Killing a god with a mortal body, you Wu Xiangnan are the first in the world, and perhaps the last. 3 divine artifacts, 3 forbidden spell arrays, 1 human at their absolute limit, 1 proxy enhanced to divine realm by the meditation cushion, and 1 undying swordsman who briefly gained the power of law through rebirth. Many factors combined, after experiencing hardships, barely managed to kill a god. This process cannot be replicated, cannot be repeated. Wu Xiangnan looked at Lin Chia, his gaze incredibly gentle. Chia, when everything is done, if you have time, go back to Tsongnan. Hongying Chima, they're all waiting for us. When they ask about me, just tell them. Wu Xiangnan lowered his head, looking at his dispersing body, and smiled bitterly. Tell them I'm a bit busy and can't return for now. A wave of sourness rose in Lin Chia's heart as he looked at Wu Xiangnan, overlapping this weather-beaten face with that of the deputy captain from the Tsongnan office, and nodded heavily. Don't worry, I will go back. Wu Xiangnan looked at him deeply, like an old father who had witnessed his child's growth, his eyes full of satisfaction and pride. I'm leaving. Wu Xiangnan turned around and walked towards somewhere in Takamagara with his dispersing form, as if searching for something. Hazy blood mist enveloped his body, white threads floating away, that nearly transparent form finally stopped at a certain broken ground. He slowly crouched down, his blood-stained light blue cloak spreading on the ground, his eyes fixed on the void beneath his feet, and closed his eyes. This was where his teammates had perished, and his final resting place. Bang! With the last burst of blood mist, Wu Xiangnan's body transformed into white threads, gradually fading away. His lips parted slightly as he smiled and spoke. Blue Rain, squad survivor Wu Xiangnan, requesting to rejoin the team. His final whisper echoed in the air. That blood-stained light blue cloak gently fell to the ground, like a nameless tombstone carved with achievements, letting the souls buried here fall into eternal slumber. Pale golden light enveloped Lin Chia and Wang Mian's forms as they gazed at the drifting blue cloak in the distance, both falling into silence. Blue Rain, squad has finally completely disappeared, Lin Chia let out a long sigh. Blue Rain won't disappear, their names will be forever engraved on the Night Watcher's stone stele. Stone stele. At the Night Watcher's headquarters, there's a stone stele that records the names of all special squads. When a special squad disappears or disbands, their name and achievements are engraved on it. Wang Mian's lips curved into a bitter smile. Now, Mask should also be engraved on it. Lin Chia was silent for a moment. But you, the captain of Mask, are still alive, shouldn't the designation remain? Mask, with just me alone, can no longer be considered Mask. Wang Mian shook his head. At this point we can no longer cling to this designation but must pass it on, let fresh blood flow in. Just like Blue Rain back then. If Wu Xiangnan hadn't cancelled the Blue Rain 005 designation back then, there wouldn't be your Nightfall, now. After engraving Mask's name on the stone stele, I believe it won't be long before a brand new 004 special squad appears in Great Xia. Perhaps they will have more hope and vitality than us. I understand. Lin Chia felt mixed emotions. A stone stele engraved with the names of disbanded special squads. Wonder if years later will Nightfall's name also be engraved on it? By then what achievements and legends will be left behind their names? Perhaps after that their 005 will also be passed down, and a completely new young special squad will carry their will and hope rising powerfully. Perhaps this is the destiny of special squads. I'm going to get something. Wang Mian said, walking to Susanu's corpse, reaching into his chest and searching for a while before pulling out a red magatama with a broken corner. When he saw this magatama, Wang Mian's gaze brightened. The divine artifact of Takamagara, the Yasakani no Magatama. This was what the god of time had asked him to obtain. Wang Mian carefully stored the magatama, then immediately rushed towards Takamagara's gate with Lin Chia. But before they could get far, the second red moon hanging in the sky suddenly burst with dazzling light. Roar! The howls of corpse beasts echoed from all directions, surging like endless waves. Lin Chia and Wang Mian, who were heading towards the gates of Takamagara, suddenly changed their expressions. They looked up at the second red moon, and the faint golden aura surrounding them began to fluctuate slightly. That red moon was releasing extremely terrifying pollution. Even the dispersing power of divine calamity was barely holding up. What exactly is that thing? Wang Mian frowned. I don't know. Lin Chia's gaze swept across the surroundings. Countless corpse beasts were rapidly approaching. But we'd better leave here first. The massive number of corpse beasts that descended into the human circle had all escaped from within Takamagara. In this divine corpse-filled Takamagara, the number of corpse beasts had accumulated to an extremely terrifying figure. Although Wu Xiangnan successfully killed Susanu, the endless corpse beasts within Takamagara still existed. Now with the eruption of the second red moon, all these corpse beasts had gone berserk, rapidly closing in on them. But this wasn't what Lin Chia was most worried about. With Wang Mian, the human pinnacle who controlled time, breaking through the siege and leaving Takamagara wasn't difficult. What he worried about was something else. Lin Chia's gaze fell on the broken ground behind them, where a huge black figure was slowly crawling out of Susanu's corpse. Its blood-red eyes were fixed on the direction where Lin Chia and Wang Mian were heading, with divine-level pressure frantically surging from its center. Another complete corpse god. From Susanu's death to the eruption of the second red moon, in just a few seconds, the large amount of divine power remaining in Susanu's corpse was inherited by the newly bred corpse beast, creating another corpse god. Through the turbulent red moon pollution around them, Lin Chia could sense that the second red moon in the sky seemed angry. Was it because they killed Susanu? What exactly was its relationship with Susanu? Lin Chia had no time to think further, pushing his speed to the limit as he rushed towards the gate with Wang Mian. He could no longer use divine calamity, had no forbidden spell erase to use, and with a severely injured Wang Mian, they had no chance of defeating this corpse god now. Moreover, he vaguely felt that the inexplicable second red moon hanging in the sky was the true source of this catastrophe. We're surrounded. Lin Chia's spiritual power swept out, revealing the positions of the surrounding corpse beasts in his mind. Looking at the hundreds of infinite and Klein-level corpse beasts encircling the gate ahead, his expression became extremely grave. If just this area had bred so many corpse beasts, how many must there be in all of Takamagara? At this moment, Lin Chia suddenly understood what Merlin meant by, the catastrophe hasn't disappeared, but exists in another form. Under the elderly Wang Mian's arrangement, the divine madness catastrophe that should have erupted 50 years ago was resolved. But more than 50 years later, these thousands of corpse beasts in Takamagara had converged into another terrifying catastrophe. Compared to such an enormous quantity of infinite and Klein-level corpse beasts, the wave of mysterious beast tide that appeared at Chenlong Pass seemed adorably weak. Can we fight our way out? Lin Chia turned to look at Wang Mian beside him. Wang Mian's pale face was completely bloodless. He placed his right hand on his sword hilt and solemnly shook his head. I don't know. My spiritual power is almost exhausted. I can't control time on a large scale anymore. Lin Chia's brows furrowed slightly as his mind raced. Beep beep beep. Just then crisp horn sounds came from the distance. The running Lin Chia and Wang Mian were startled and looked toward the source of the sound. Through the vast sea of corpse beasts, they saw a yellow electric scooter with its lights on, driving straight towards them. On the vehicle, Lu Wei wore a helmet with a small yellow duck pressed against his forehead. He had twisted the throttle to its lowest setting, remaining as steady as a mountain regardless of how the surrounding corpse beasts attacked and roared. Lu Wei expressionlessly threw out several pizza boxes, blasting those corpse beasts into pieces, and slowly drove up to the two amid the rain of blood. Mr. Lu Wei. The two were stunned to see that familiar figure. Click. Lu Wei pushed up his helmet visor, honked the horn twice and coolly tossed his head. Get on. Lin Chia hesitated for a moment. Mr. Lu, can this vehicle break through? Yes. But electric scooters are limited to 2 passengers and there are 3 of us. Wang Mian couldn't help but remind. There's no need to be so law-abiding in Takamagara. No traffic police will stop us. Lu Wei shrugged and said expressionlessly, get on. Lin Chia and Wang Mian exchanged glances, and seeing the corpse beasts continuously approaching, they gritted their teeth and squeezed onto the scooter. Beep beep beep. The electric scooter's horn sounded again as the small vehicle, carrying 3 people, slowly drove towards the gate. Once the vehicle started moving, Lin Chia realized something was wrong. This speed wasn't even half as fast as his somersault cloud. At this speed, wouldn't they eventually be caught by the corpse beasts and become trapped? Mr. Lu, why don't you ride my somersault cloud instead? Lin Chia couldn't help but speak up, about to summon the cloud energy. Don't move. Lu Wei said seriously, staying on this vehicle is the safest option, otherwise you'll be caught in the aftermath. Aftermath? Lin Chia was stunned. Caught in what? Just as Lin Chia finished speaking, the connecting gate in the distance, which already had a gap cut into it, suddenly erupted with intense flames, becoming as bright as a dazzling sun, before violently exploding. Boom! Earth-shattering explosions echoed across the sky as terrifying divine power waves poured out from the direction of the connecting gate. Meteor-like streams of fire burst forth, streaking across the sky and crashing into various parts of Takamagara. Lin Chia and Wang Mian sat on the electric scooter as endless streams of fire whooshed past the vehicle, the scorching heat nearly melting their bodies. After a long while, they realized that for some reason, these streams of fire seemed to deliberately avoid this electric scooter. What is that? Wang Mian's brows furrowed tightly. Have more outer gods appeared? No. Lu Wei calmly replied, they are not outer gods. Amid the rumbling sounds, Takamagara's connecting gate collapsed with a boom. Endless flames swept out as 3 figures wearing different robes stood in the air, unhurriedly walking in from outside the gate. The Heavenly Lord was right, Takamagara has finally manifested. One of the figures wearing a Cyan Taoist robe holding a precious sword spoke slowly. Since that's the case, this thorn that has been hanging over our great Xia for decades should be removed. Clear the area. As the words fell, the 3 silhouettes flashed and crashed into the blood-colored world. As one of the silhouettes lightly raised their palm, a giant seal shot up into the sky, rapidly expanding until it covered the entire sky like a mountain shrouded in celestial mist, carrying terrifying power as it smashed down. Boom! The moment this giant seal struck, a thunderous explosion echoed through the clouds. Hundreds of corpse beasts were crushed into bloody mist, disappearing into the air before they could even cry out. Simultaneously, the ground of Takamagara violently shook, and dense cracks rapidly spread from the center of the seal, swallowing the surrounding palaces and temples. In an instant the sky collapsed and the earth sank. On another side, a silhouette like a swift swan charged alone into the roaring horde of corpse beasts. A Taoist robe fluttered in the wind, and from its wide sleeve flew out an ancient scroll. With a light touch of their fingertip, the scroll hung in midair, quickly unfurling to reveal majestic mountains interwoven with rushing rivers, forming a magnificent and grand landscape. As a golden light bloomed, a terrifying suction force surged from the painting. The tide of corpse beasts covering the broken ground was swept up into the sky like chickens, flying into that ancient scroll and vanishing without a trace. After these two figures struck, the surging corpse beast horde was instantly torn open with hideous gaps. Those scattered throughout Takamagara were rapidly eliminated, completely routed. The earth rumbled as divine power swept through. On the broken ground, Lin Chia and his two companions sat in that tiny electric scooter, passing through the spells and corpse beasts filling the sky, their mouths agape in shock. "These three are," Wang Mian spoke dazedly. Just as Lin Chia was about to say something, in the distance, a figure wearing a cyan Taoist robe and holding a sword was walking through the dispersing corpse beast horde, approaching them. Lu Wuwei immediately hit the brakes. The Taoist stopped in front of the vehicle. A thread of sword light circled around, shredding all the roaring corpse beasts nearby into pieces. As blood rain scattered, his gaze fell on Lin Chia as he slowly spoke. "You are Lin Chia?" Lin Chia was stunned. "Yes, you are. This poor Taoist is Yu Ding." The Taoist made a gesture of greeting and said with a smile, "These years my disciple has been in your care." "Yu Ding? The Yu Ding Zhenren of the 12 Golden Immortals?" Information about what this name represented instantly flashed through Lin Chia's mind, his eyes filled with shock. If the person before him was one of the 12 Golden Immortals, then the identities of the other two figures were also clear. If Lin Chia wasn't mistaken, the one holding the heaven-turning seal should be Guangqing Zi of the 12 Golden Immortals, and the one holding the mountains and rivers scroll would be the legendary Tai Zhenren. Yuding Tai Guangqing Zi. The gods of Great Xia had indeed all returned from reincarnation. However, why would they appear in Takamagara? Your disciple? Lin Chia had just recovered from the shock of this person's identity when he fell into confusion. If he remembered correctly, wasn't Yu Ding Zhenren's disciple Yang Jian in mythology? When had Yang Jian ever been in his care? Seeing Lin Chia's confused expression, Yu Ding Zhenren smiled slightly, shook his head and walked calmly past the electric scooter with his sword. "Go on, the Heavenly Lord is waiting for you outside. Leave the rest to us." Yu Ding Zhenren's figure disappeared from the trio's view. Lu Wei raised an eyebrow, turned the handlebar again, and drove the scooter quickly along the bloody path Yu Ding Zhenren had carved, heading toward the broken gateway. Yu Ding Zhenren calmly passed through the continuously approaching corpse beasts. His sword trembled slightly, and a sword light that reached heaven and earth poured forth, blooming under the blood-colored sky. In an instant, over 1,000 corpse beasts within 5 kilometers before him were simultaneously cut in half. Scattered flesh mixed with spraying blood rolled to the ground. He walked across the blood pools with his sword, yet neither his cyan Taoist robe nor the blade of his sword was stained with even a drop of blood. Roar! A deep roar came from ahead. Yu Ding Zhenren narrowed his eyes and looked up. At the other end of the horizon, the corpse god born from within Susanu stood on a small mountain made of piled divine corpses, roaring ferociously as terrifying waves of divine power spread madly outward. Its hollow eyes stared fixedly at the tiny figure of Yu Ding Zhenren below, murderous intent evident. Yu Ding Zhenren slowly came to a stop. But, with a muffled sound, the corpse god leaped from afar and crashed down before Yu Ding Zhenren. Its enormous body crushed the ground beneath like a small mountain. Howling winds swept forth, blowing Yu Ding Zhenren's black hair upward. Phantom images of oceans gathered around him. The corpse god opened its hideous mouth, seemingly about to roar again, but before its mouth could fully open, a sword light flashed past its body in an instant. The corpse god's voice cut off abruptly. Its giant body froze on the ground, and after 2 seconds of stillness, a fine line of blood appeared, then its entire body slowly split in two along this bloodline. Its upper body crashed to the ground, raising clouds of dust. Yu Ding Zhenren walked out of the smoke with his sword, his eyes coldly sweeping over the corpse god's body. A false god formed from filth dares to block my way? He snorted coldly, gripped his sword with one hand, and continued advancing deeper into Takamagara. You know Yang Jian? Wang Mian asked curiously from his seat. No, I don't. Lin Chia shook his head, completely confused. I only saw him from afar in Songnan when he killed an outer god. I've never had any interaction with the great Xia gods. Except for Sun Wukong. Lin Chia thought to himself. How strange. Wang Mian raised an eyebrow. The electric scooter sped across the broken ground. Behind them, the three golden immortals had turned Takamagara upside down. Without the interference of those corpse beasts, Lin Chia and the others quickly rode through the gateway. Lin Chia and Wang Mian got off Lu Wuwei's scooter, finally freed from the cramped seats, and breathed a long sigh of relief. My order is complete now, you can return to Great Xia by yourselves? Lu Wuwei said to them while fondly patting his electric scooter. Yes. Both nodded simultaneously. Then I'm off. It'll take quite some time to drive back. See you in Great Xia. Lu Wuwei waved, put on his helmet and slowly disappeared at the end of the broken street riding his little electric scooter. Lin Chia and Wang Mian exchanged glances and smiled helplessly. One gray figure and one red figure walked side by side toward the distance. Oh right, there's something I wanted to ask you. Lin Chia seemed to recall something and told Wang Mian about Jialan's situation. You want to accelerate her divine awakening process? Wang Mian's brows furrowed slightly and after pondering for a moment he shook his head. In this matter I can't help you. Aren't you the agent of the time god? In this world there isn't just one time god. Wang Mian explained, the scope of time laws is too deep and broad for a single deity to fully control. The time gods from various pantheons have divided the laws of time among themselves, and each one specializes in different aspects of time. The time god I represent is Kronos from Greek mythology. His domain of time specializes more in time reversal, which is my time sequence thug. While I can use other time abilities like pause, slow down and speed up, I only know the basics. What Jialan needs now is the law specializing in time acceleration, which neither I nor Kronos can provide. So you're saying I need to find other time gods? Lin Chia frowned. Then which time god possesses this power? I don't know, but I can help you investigate and let you know when I find something. Thank you. Lin Chia nodded slightly. Misty fog rolled through the city ruins and without realizing it, the two had arrived at a broken intersection. Under the dim sky, the gray intersection's roads extended in different directions, disappearing into the rolling mist. Looking out, one couldn't see the end, only endless mystery and uncertainty remained. Just as they reached the center, they both stopped as if sensing something. The air suddenly fell silent. Lin Chia stood on the zebra crossing, surprise appearing on his face. He first turned to look at the left turn shrouded in mist, hesitated for a moment, then looked toward the right turn. The one on the left is coming for me. Wang Mian's eyes fixed on the left road as he spoke slowly. The one on the right should be looking for me. Lin Chia recalled what Yu Dingjinren had said earlier and replied. I'll help ask about your matter while I'm at it. Wang Mian stepped toward the left road, his figure gradually disappearing into the mist. See you in Xia. Lin Chia took a deep breath and turned to walk into the right road. Two figures, one gray and one red, at the misty intersection, walked in different directions and vanished without a trace. Wang Mian walked in the mist for a long time. The streets on both sides, abandoned for centuries, were dead silent. The decaying tree branches shattered into debris with the slightest breeze, dancing like ghosts in the air. As Wang Mian stepped across the zebra crossing, the flying tree debris suddenly froze in the air, like black dots embedded in the gray sky, eternally suspended. Even the wind and mist froze in that instant. Time stopped. Wang Mian's steps faltered slightly, but he quickly ignored the anomaly around him and continued forward naturally in his gray cloak. This time stop wasn't his doing. In the distance, at the center of the misty street, an old man in black stood quietly under an abandoned traffic light, both hands resting on a cane, eyes closed as if asleep. Wang Mian stopped upon seeing him. Why make me walk so far? He asked somewhat helplessly. The old man in black slowly opened his eyes. The brilliant river of time flowed from his eyes, interweaving into a circle where head met tail. Endless time and vicissitudes surged forth in that instant, and suddenly time on this street rapidly reversed. The flying tree debris rolled back into the soil, becoming a decaying tree, then visibly regenerating. After 10 seconds, it had transformed back into a massive cherry blossom tree. The weathering on the abandoned building's surfaces rapidly retreated. Under the reversal of time, those dust-covered, broken storefronts regained their brilliance. Broken signs flew back onto the facades, and a new vibrant Japanese commercial street reappeared before Wang Mian's eyes. Pink cherry blossoms fell like rain, and on the renewed street, two old men gazed at each other across an intersection. Your Disya's deity is on the other side. I don't want to be too close to him. The old man gazed at Wang Mian as he slowly spoke. The mighty Kronos, primordial god of time from Greek mythology, is afraid of Disya's deity? This isn't fear but mutual respect. The old man said calmly, "Did you bring it out?" "Yes." Wang Mian took out the Yasukani no Magatama with its broken corner from his chest and held it in his palm. "Is this it?" "It is." The old man's gaze swept over the Magatama as he nodded slightly. "You came quite quickly. As soon as I brought it out, you appeared. Once it left Takamagara, I naturally sensed its aura." The old man paused. "As for the speed of time, it has no meaning to me." Wang Mian gripped the Magatama in his hand, remained silent for a moment, then spoke. "I have a request." The old man's eyes narrowed when he heard this but didn't speak. "I want a portion of the laws of time." "You want to become a god?" The old man's brows furrowed slightly. "As a human attempting to become a time god, you're quite bold." "I have my reasons why I must become a god." The old man stared into Wang Mian's eyes, then after a moment shook his head. "Impossible. The laws of time in this world have all been divided and merged among the gods. There are no spare time laws to give you." Hearing this, Wang Mian's brows furrowed tightly. Unless what? "Unless you wait until I die and my laws return to heaven and earth. If you have the ability to seize them from the other time gods division, then naturally you can replace me and become a time god." The old man said leisurely. Wang Mian was stunned, a bitter smile appearing at the corner of his mouth. Theoretically, this path could work. Since there were no spare laws in the world, he could wait for Kronos to die and then inherit his laws. But the possibility was infinitely close to zero. Kronos was a primordial god of Greek mythology. How could he die so easily? In this world, beings who could fight him were few and far between, let alone kill him. And even if he did die, the time laws he left behind would surely spark a scramble among time gods from other pantheons. How could Wang Mian, at the peak of human capability, snatch these time laws from among the gods?